Hello and welcome everyone. Taking a break from the hardware reviews today, I'm going to go over how I added an overhead panel, or panels rather, to my DOF Reality P3. Now I should probably start here with saying I'm sure this would void any warranties you may have. DOF Reality didn't design their rigs around being so top heavy. This is not standard use and you should exercise extreme caution if you try and make any modifications. I spent a lot of time researching and testing for my use case, and you're essentially mounting something over your head on a moving machine, so please take caution. Some of the precautions I've taken is essentially making sure the overhead is as light and balanced as it can, as well as limiting some of the range of motion of the rig via the software. And it's been just over a year with regular use, and so far I haven't had any issues, thankfully. Just something to keep in mind. Before the DOF Reality P3 was here, I had a triple screen sim pit with the real SimGear TBM G1000 panels. Originally, I only flew anything with the G1000, eventually expanding to the G3000, and finally getting the Boeing 737 to work. I utilized the real SimGear G1000 PFD and MFD to display the various parts of the Boeing systems with Air Manager. And eventually, I picked up the Boeing 737 overhead from VR Insight and constructed a crossbeam with my cousin to support it. Fast forward to me ordering a DOF Reality P3 and not having any idea on how I was going to utilize the overhead or if it was even possible. After the motion rig was set up and I saw what I was working with, I started getting ideas together on how best to pull it off. I knew whatever it was needed to be lightweight and strong. I called up my cousin and off to Home Depot we went to see what we could possibly use. Now I'd insert a Home Depot montage here, but I don't think that far ahead. After searching for a bit, we settled on this 1-inch square aluminum tubing. I also bought a steel flat bar to make tabs that the overhead would screw into. To assemble it, I purchased a bunch of brackets and clamps off Amazon since Home Depot didn't have what I needed. Ultimately, the design I was going for was to have beams running the length of the rig connecting to the front and the back. The only slight caveat here is I already had some slight modifications to how I hung the 43-inch LG TV to the rig. I picked up some steel pre-drilled bar previously, which is what the TV is connected to. And the reason for this is my Brenner yoke is very deep, so it needed to have some sort of crossbeam for the back half of the yoke housing to support it. I could have probably done something different here, but I think this worked out for the best. Reason being is the steel pre-drilled bar connected to the aluminum bar without any issues with the couplers, since it was the same size. The aluminum bar connects to the monitor mount steel bars and then goes up to the height that I wanted. It hits a 90-degree coupler and then runs the length of the rig on both sides. It hits another 90-degree coupler, runs down back behind the seat where it hits yet another 90, and then connects to some more of the steel pre-drilled bar. I also added 2 cross braces for strength. To mount the overhead itself, I cut and drilled the flat steel bar, attaching the steel bar via the bolts on the aluminum tubing, aligning and then tightening the bar to line up with the angle I wanted for the overhead. And at this point, the project was done, for now. I used the overhead in this manner for probably the past year or so now. There's been no issues with it except for one. If I want to take the overhead down, it requires unscrewing the 4 screws in a sort of balancing act. Trying to attach the screws while holding the overhead in one hand is quite the task. It wasn't the biggest deal for the most part, however now that I have the A320 overhead from VR Insight, I found myself wanting to switch between the two more. And also, when I switch to flying into DCS, I take the overhead down so there's no reason to have the extra overhead weight while making more aggressive maneuvers. This got me thinking on how I could utilize the Visa mounting support on the back of the overhead panels. I ordered more of the couplers off Amazon and cut another cross brace. I found a quick attach Visa plate adapter that was for a specific Samsung monitor type, and from the photos on Amazon, this looked like it would work perfectly, and it did. The part that would normally attach to the monitor, I attached to the aluminum crossbar, and the angle that was preset on this bracket for the monitor actually worked perfectly and set the overhead at just the right angle I was looking for. Using one of the monitor quick release plates, I'm now able to install and remove any of the overheads in seconds, and best of all, no more balancing act while fumbling with screws. I couldn't be happier with how it all came out. Adding the overhead has increased the versatility of the rig for me tremendously. Having the quick release allows me to swap between Airbus, Boeing, or just remove the overhead entirely and go flying in DCS. That's all for this one, and thanks for watching. Don't forget you can watch me stream live from the rig right here on YouTube or twitch.tv/AviatorChris. Be well and fly safe.